Welcome to today's episode of Elevating and Empowering, where we dive into the stories, the challenges, and resilience of marginalized communities. Today is going to be an important topic. Today, we turn our focus to LGBTQ plus community and examine how various policy actions and rhetoric, particularly during the Trump administration, have impacted their rights, visibility, and well being. From changes in healthcare access to shifts in protection for transgender individuals, we'll explore what these developments have meant on a personal and nationwide scale. Mhm. So stay with us for a powerful and important conversation. Right, Kim?
Let's go. Let's get into
Yes.
it.
Kim and Gillia, this is what we're doing. Yeah, well, I mean, what? This is Pride Month, right?
Happy Pride, everyone. Happy Pride.
Happy Pride. I got the shirt. I got the shirt. Oh my God. So, yeah, I thought that this, and you and I, we talk a lot offline, and we felt like, this is an important topic and an important episode to present. One, because it is Pride Month.
It's
And
Pride.
two, because what is happening now with the Trump administration towards the LGBTQ plus community? So, yeah.
Towards humanity. And today we're going to focus on the LGBTQ population.
Oh,
But
yeah,
really
yeah. You're like,
towards
well,
humanity.
exactly. Well, Gilead, there's a broader scale to that. It's not just the LGBTQ.
Well, no,
Uh,
I'm not saying not just. I'm saying we're just specifically talking about this part of humanity.
yeah, yeah,
Because
absolutely.
unfortunately it's impacting everyone.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I mean, think about it. Early 25, when he started throwing out and initiating the executive orders, a lot of these executive orders were going towards the LGBTQ plus community. I mean, because they
Yeah.
were focusing on restricting gender identity and expression, right? You know, and then the employment, healthcare, public accommodations. I mean, all of those things, like you're talking about now, you're allowing discrimination against LGBTQ,
Yeah.
plus
Yeah.
community. You are creating executive orders saying, now I am not having a protection for you, against anything, any type of discrimination, anything from housing, anything from, the healthcare, employment, all the things, right? And not only that, I know as a transgender community, you identify differently from a sex perspective, right? Not how you were born, your sexual identity when born. You have changed that identity. No, not with the Trump
With the
administration.
passports.
That
Yeah.
has been taken away. Kim, come
D
on.
DEI. We did a show on DEI, and that impacts the LGBTQIA plus community.
Right. And
Yeah.
then, yeah, you got the whole where transgender children can't play in the girls' sports because, oh, I mean, you're taking away the true competitive nature
Well,
because,
that's a
yeah,
tough one.
yeah, you have a guy that now turns into a female, or like I was just saying, a male turns into a female, and now all of a sudden playing on girls' sports, where you're creating competitive, disarray per se, imbalance. So all of those things, and then the bathrooms. If you identify now as you were a male, you identify now as a female, you should be allowed to go in the female bathrooms. That's how it has been. That's been restricted and strict.
Really
So there,
touchy, controversial subjects.
absolutely, absolutely. So
So
I
I know
think,
you did a lot of research on
oh
this.
my gosh, it has been, I, just, you know, the fact that I have lots of friends, in the community. So we have these discussions, I feel like it impacts my community. I mean, I associate with the community, right?
It impacts everyone.
Yeah, yeah. So I feel like, yeah, so these conversations is it has to be like I have to dive into it because it's going to impact not only me but my friends as well, right? So
In
I
the
think
country.
mhm, I think that there's something we can do something about it. But the first thing is let's understand what these executive orders were doing and what does this mean, right?
Right.
Um, and because these executive orders have been initiated, when the Trump administration has ended, the succession, the next one in, will we stay here or will we
If it
get this?
ends.
No, we are not going to have a dictatorship. Like, oh, you will no longer have to vote again. Yeah, no, no, no.
He did say that, didn't he?
No, we
He's
cannot
alluded
let
to
that
that.
happen. We cannot let that happen. We
I
cannot. So, but we
mean,
are also not sure that these executive orders, all the things that the Trump administration is initiating, right, and pushing through, the next president, the next administration, how do we not know that they won't keep it as it is and not turn back the clock to the Biden administration who allowed all those things?
yeah. And previous administrations.
Correct. Yes.
So what in your research, like what's an executive order that really stood out to you as being, let's say, unfair to the LGBTQIA plus community?
I would
And
say
can
it's
you define what LGBTQ is for
um
maybe listeners who might not
oh
be
the
familiar with that acronym?
okay, so yeah, sure, Kim. Why not? The L stands for if you identify as a lesbian, right? The G stands for
Gay.
because LGBT, yes, and then the
Oh, I'm
B is
sorry. Yeah. LG. Yes.
LGB, yes, the B is for bisexual, right? T transgender, and Q for queer. Plus is all the other things,
Yeah. And you'll
that
often hear LGBTQIA plus,
IA, yes.
and the I is intersex, and the A is asexual. Which did you and I have this conversation that you were saying
We
maybe intersex and A shouldn't be included in LGBTQIA plus?
well, and I think because asexual is where you isn't that the one that where you don't identify
You don't
as
have a
any of the yeah, but it's
think
kind
you
of
don't
set
have a
up like
desire for sexual relations.
you say that one more time.
I
I'm
think you don't have a desire for schmexual relations.
yeah, and I think that's why I was like, why are we having that's kind of like that kind of stands alone to me.
Hmm,
But that's just my opinion because why is that associated? But that's a whole
maybe.
nother show, but I'm not sure why
Yeah. And
that is.
I said maybe, and I don't know, I am not an expert, but I said maybe LGBTQIA plus is just non-heteronormative, right? So people that are straight. And that term is heterosexual or heteronormative because in not only in this country but the world, being straight is seen as the norm.
Okay, so
and
when you
and that's important, seen as the norm. I didn't say it is the norm, seen as the norm.
so are you saying that the A is that kind of being fluid or because you don't
No,
see
the A is asexual, like you don't have any desire for sex with anybody.
that's who I should be like. That's doggone it, that's me.
That is definitely
I
not you.
no,
That is
that's
definitely
me.
not
I
you.
don't have any nothing.
Right. And
Yeah.
there are people that don't have sexual desires or urges, and I believe that's what asexual kind of comes down to,
Yeah. I don't have any.
versus having a desire to have sex with someone of the opposite gender or the same gender or both genders.
Doggone it, I'm A. Thank you. I'm A.
Right. Did that just start right now?
Right, yeah, I'm
Because I'm not trying to give out too much information about you, but that does not sound like the cousin that I know and love.
I'm claiming A today. To break down the I though,
You know,
I've never focused on I too much.
yeah, and
I'm
I was
sorry for
actually,
those who identify with the I just
and
never.
so I is intersex. So let me look up the definition so I'm not on here lying. Intersex refers to a condition in which an individual's biological sex characteristics, such as chromosomes, gonads, hormones, or anatomy, do not fit neatly into the traditional binary categories of male and female. So I believe that would be someone that is maybe uh what is it called? Where
Aphrodite?
you, yeah, but I think that's a derogatory term
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
now. Yeah, but in the past, like a hermaphrodite, which is I think hermaphrodite would now be called intersex. Like perhaps
You could
you
have a
were
carry a male, like a female carries an anatomy of a male.
right, like maybe you were born with
Mhm.
a penis, or maybe not a fully developed penis, but you, I on the outside, you may look like a woman. And I say look because what, you know, what the
Yeah.
women look like very many different things. And like the definition said, it doesn't fit into the binary of man or woman. Like things are not as black and white as we have been told they are. Because
Okay.
just
Okay.
by
That makes
looking
sense.
at someone, you can't know what their genitalia is.
I like that the way they did change that. That's
Yeah, me
good
too. Me
because
too.
yeah, that doesn't. It didn't ever sound all glitz and glamour the way they explained
Yeah.
that.
So once again, an intersex person is born with biological sex characteristics. So not just the genitalia, but the hormones, the chromosomes. But it
Mhm.
doesn't fit into male or female. So someone could present
Wow.
as a man, but be born with female characteristics, which would be, you know, maybe a uterus or a vagina, or have more estrogen than a, a binary man would have. I mean, it's
Can they
all,
give me some of that estrogen? Because I'm lacking estrogen because of this
I need
menopause.
some of
So
that
I,
estrogen too.
yeah, I'm like, can we get some of that? Yeah, give me
We'll
some of
do
that
another
too.
show on menopause,
Woo!
because I think everyone needs to know about menopause, not just women, not just older women, not just young women, but everyone needs to know about menopause.
Makes you swole up out of the screen. You used to be like smaller, and then all of a sudden you go through menopause, you just swelling up like a balloon, right?
And
It's like put
there's
a
good
string
stuff,
on me.
and there's good stuff to menopause too. But
Uh,
yes. So,
really? Okay.
getting back to
Anyway, yeah.
LGBTQIA plus, that's what the I and the A stand for. And this impacts all, you know, you're talking about the executive orders that are coming out. This impacts, uh, I say, not only this community, the LGBTQIA plus community, but also like people like me who are straight, the heteronormatives.
Okay.
Because
Now, why would it affect you
I always
or your
believe,
community?
I think it's Audre Lorde, who was a black writer, said, no one is free until we're all free.
Mm.
Right. I mean, and as we see what's going on with the immigration raids, or the, you know, the ICE kidnapping people off the streets,
Yeah.
um, you know, the all of the wars going on around the
Mm.
world, you know, poverty, school shootings, like all, we are, you know, from a spiritual perspective,
Yeah.
we are all interconnected. And even from a physical perspective, we are all interconnected. So I forget what poem it is, and I'll have to look it up, but someone was like, you know, first they came for the Polish and I said nothing. Then they came for the Jews and I said nothing. You know, and I think about that today. First they came for the Palestinians and I said nothing. Then they came for the gays and I said nothing. And then they came for the blacks and I said nothing. And then they came for the immigrants. And at the end of the day, no one is left when someone comes for you. So I
Yeah.
always
Oh.
believe, for me, as
Yeah.
someone that has studied social justice and lives by social justice, that when something impacts your neighbor, your family, your
Mm.
friends, your community, which for me, LGBTQIA plus, I have many people in my community that are LGBTQIA plus. How do I look as a straight person, as an ally, like that? Turn my back. That doesn't impact me.
Yeah, exactly.
That's y'all problem. I don't have to deal with it.
Yes.
No, 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 no. I feel that you and I talk about this. I feel that we need to use our privilege where we have it to help other people that are marginalized in that category.
I
So
love that.
when I
I
say
love that.
use your privilege, like we always hear about white privilege, right? I have white friends that use their white privilege to stand up for people that are not white, who are marginalized in this society. I have the privilege of education. I
Yeah.
use that education to help others who may not have education. I am a straight woman. I have more privilege than my friends, family, people that I love, colleagues, coworkers, clients that don't have that privilege of being straight. I need to use my straight heteronormative privilege to stand up for the wrongs that are going on against the LGBTQIA plus community, and I need to stand with them. And we
I
all have
love that
privilege.
because we're all one. We are all one.
We are, even though the divisiveness is what makes capitalism thrive.
Yeah, yeah, good point. Good point. I mean, and when we talked about doing this episode, we were so like excited and passionate about it. Remember, we're like, yeah,
Yeah,
and then
because it's fun.
yeah,
And it doesn't, I shouldn't say just because it's Pride Month, we would have done the show anyway, but
right,
especially highlighting pride
right, and it
and
was so
why. I'll get into this after you say this, but why there is pride and there's no straight pride. But we'll get into that
Oh,
into
I
a
want to
minute.
get into that. Yeah. Yeah, that it was so hard. So as we were so excited to talk about the episode, to have this episode early in the week and even, previously, right? With all the other things, I was just like, oh my God, there's so much. I almost got hesitant, right? Because I was like, oh my God, there's so much happening now, with military coming into Los Angeles, right? And we're spending $134 million, for that,
To
right? For
kidnap
the
people.
immigrants, ICE is coming, 5,000 National Guards in there. Ridiculous. Now we have the big birthday bash that is $45 million, right? So it was just like, oh my gosh, with this hitting the news so rampant,
Dollars.
45 million for the big birthday bash. It's a parade, it's a military parade. But as you can see, if you turn on that television, you will see veterans out there trying to storm the Capitol. Some have gotten through and gotten arrested
Oh,
because they're
really?
like, this is not representing us. This is not a parade really for us because we've lost our jobs. Jobs have been taken. You've cut, programs that impact us, and you're spending
There's homeless
45 million.
veterans sleeping on the
Yeah,
street. And
yeah.
let's bring up that our current president in the United States has dodged the draft 5 times. And I am not a tremendous fan of the industrial war complex that we have here in the United States. But for Donald Trump to dodge the draft, I believe it was the Vietnam War, and then talk so disparagingly about our
Yeah,
veterans, about
exactly.
John McCain, who was a
Oh yeah,
prisoner
if
of
you get
war.
prisoner of war, oh, we shouldn't be honoring you. You're not great because you got captured. I heard Jasmine
Like you
Crockett,
said, firing all of
mention
these
that. Yeah,
veterans,
yeah. Even
and then we're
Sunny
going to turn
Anderson,
around
that
and have a
ticked her
military
off.
parade.
Yeah, because Sunny Anderson's a veteran, and she said she was really upset by that statement. So yeah, so that going on, we still have the Diddy, remember, because I was like,
Yep.
we're talking about this episode, we wanted to talk about this episode, but we got Diddy going on, and it was just like, how do you focus on that? Is another major story, major event
Yep.
going on, and we just had to sit back and say, I know, let's focus on LGBTQ. We're going to go ahead and do it, right?
Yeah.
When there's
One thing at a time.
exactly, because with the Diddy thing, we have to talk about Kanye showing up yesterday and
In
support.
all white,
Right.
just like the Diddy
I,
parties.
So, I mean, so those are the kind of things that we were bringing to you today, but we're going to stay focused, which it's
I'll
hard to
try.
do with
I'll
all the
try.
things. I know, right? Come to, I can't even think of that song. Put your hands up in the, okay, no, we are talking about LGBT. So yeah, you asked which one of the orders, and I say, pretty much, the anti-discrimination one, pretty much like, you know not allowing protections,
Mm.
for LGBT, I can't talk about
Yeah.
LGBTQ plus community. So that's frightening because a lot of violence happens against the community, right? And
Right.
so now you are putting in effective executive order that takes away that protection. Now what? So no
So
one,
can you explain it a little more to me? Like
no.
what protection, like
Um,
like to sue or
I,
to
it's just simply like, when you think about removing DEI, right? And so now we don't have that provision. So
mm,
that helps us in employments and,
okay.
housing and all of the, so that layer, that provision that's happening now towards the LGBTQ
Got it.
community,
So
that executive order.
if I was a lesbian and went to apply for an apartment legally, I could be turned down because
Yeah.
because of my sexual
Yeah,
orientation.
there, that executive order is in. So we are not protecting LGBTQ communities against discrimination because that executive order has went in motion. It's like, because he doesn't care. Why? What is Trump's problem with the community? What is the problem?
Well, I don't think it's Trump's problem. I think it's his administration's problem. And you and I have talked about this before. I don't believe Donald Trump he's not acting alone. He has many, many people, the Heritage Foundation, who wrote Project 2025. These are the very conservative, right wing, almost to fascism, that want America to look a certain way, much like Nazi Germany wanted
Mm.
Germany to look a certain way. And I was telling
Oh,
someone maybe I was telling you that it was also in Nazi Germany that the LGBTQIA were persecuted. And it wasn't until very recently in the United States that LGBTQIA plus people could get married. I mean, this was something that you had to hide who you were.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
so this just like civil rights for Black people, people of color, just like women's rights, same with LGBTQIA rights. It has not been very long. And these certain powers that be are pulling back all of those rights unless you are
It's,
white, male, straight, and rich.
you
Don't
mentioned that
forget
on
the rich.
DEI. You mentioned that on
Don't
DEI.
forget the rich. Because once again, I say DEI impacts everyone.
Yes.
Everyone.
Well, and it's so sad because when that you have raised a good point on how it was so would per se outed back in the day, and it was quieted, right? When you
Yeah.
think back when we were growing up, we saw things that we were kind of like, well, what does that mean? Like, are they, you know, operating in a different, like, are they not heterosexual? Like, we were questioning that when we were younger, but it was never like spoken, right?
Right.
um so now it's such a beautiful thing because you can be married, everyone is being who they are, they're being their authentic
Not
self,
not everyone.
or there are parades, right?
Not everyone.
There is clothing that celebrates, right? Which we would
Yeah.
never worn this growing up. You said not everyone.
I mean, we can look at some of the major stories. Like I know we were going to talk about LGBTQIA plus, but this is because now it's being speculated that Diddy has had all of this atrocious behavior because he's actually bisexual, but he suppressed that.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, and this isn't, I mean, this is my theory, but I've also heard the new Jane Doe witness that They just had,
Oh
she
man.
said out loud, she thinks Diddy is bisexual, and that's why he would have these freak offs, because he wanted to be the woman that was having the relations with the S workers. So when you suppress who you are because society says that's bad, ooh, look at Diddy.
Yeah, Jane let it out. Yeah, Jane did let it out. But Jane, again, just like the other ones, we still haven't got to the racketeering. You know what I mean? So I really don't know. But we're not going. We're gonna
I
save that
so
for the dinner. Yeah, I know. We're not gonna.
everything is so
Yeah,
connected.
right, exactly.
But you're
Exactly.
right. You say quieted, I say suppressed, because
I
there
like
are,
that.
like you
Yeah.
said,
Mhm.
there's so, because it's quieted is more like, oh, we, we
To be
accept it, but just keep quiet
fair.
about it. Suppressed is like, don't talk about it.
No, but
It's
it
bad.
was. But it was like I know
It was totally
I've had
suppressed.
like older people in my family. We had older people
Yeah.
that were accepting of maybe a son being, and being, LGBT. Back then we didn't have that many initials, but they were accepting. But it was like, be quiet about it.
Be
I love
quiet
you.
about it.
I'm
I don't
okay
know
with it. Be
anyone.
quiet.
I don't know anyone in our family that was accepting well,
Really?
my, let's, like my mother, we'll talk about that. But other than that,
You said like who?
my mother, my
Oh,
mom.
accepted
Hmm.
my brother.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. You
But
you don't. Oh goodness. I don't want to
but
call
that's
him
good
out.
that you but that's
Yeah, I'm
no,
gonna call
no, but
out,
that's
but
good that you
we'll
do.
talk offline.
Yeah. But
Y'all say, did you not know our
overall,
auntie? Da 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 da. We'll talk offline.
yeah, but overall, and I think in most families, I know a lot of LGBTQIA plus teenagers are the
Yeah.
highest demographic of homeless teens,
Which
or
is sad
maybe it's
because they get
specifically
thrown out. Yeah.
trans, because
We
they
were
they
supposed
get
to.
thrown out.
Oh my gosh, this is horrible because we were supposed to have our special guest Julia when we talk about this topic. But we will
We can do it
we'll do it.
again.
Yeah, we'll do it again because we can also talk about, how it is to actually be married, and how that life is. For so we'll do
Yeah.
it again and invite Julia and her wife on the show. But
Yeah.
I totally forgot with everything that's going on.
No, we'll
Um,
definitely do it again. And as our audience remembers, she was on our, what show was that?
alopecia.
Yeah,
Alopecia.
she was our guest for
Yeah.
alopecia. And yeah, I think it's very important for people to understand the discrimination,
That's again,
the
a good
pushback.
guest who I wish we had on here is Jasmine Crockett because I certainly love her game show. Trans or Trump? Trump or trans? And then
What's her
she,
game show?
oh my gosh, you didn't see that when she did
No,
that whole thing.
no.
You know,
And
who,
over here,
who
we
is
love us some Jasmine Crockett.
oh
We love
oh
us some Jasmine Crockett,
she is the best, the best.
the
Yeah, she was reading all
gentlewoman
these.
from Texas.
Yes, she was reading all these like who is sending people off to other countries slash deporting Trump or trans, and yeah, she was like Trump, and then who is cutting important programs, from Department of Education, da da da, Trump or trans. She was like Trump, and she would ask all. I was like, go go go, Jasmine, right?
And I love that because she's highlighting in the past she's highlighting, there's been this big fear around trans people. Oh, you don't want
Right.
them to, because there always needs to be a scapegoat in society.
That's what she's
And also
doing.
what people don't understand, they demonize. So you remember when it wasn't trans, but drag queens, maybe they were trans, but drag queens were reading, having story times in public libraries, and the
Mm-hmm,
kid, they'd come all glammed up and read the books to the kids, and the kids were all happy. And then you had a lot of very conservative Christian right people being like, oh, these trans people are programming our children and they're, leading them wrong. And Jasmine Crockett basically is like, who's doing who's doing the most harm? Because it's not the trans people, it's not the drag queens. reading books in the library, it's our president, it's this
Yeah,
administration.
exactly.
Drag queens and trans people are not sending, are not making us enemy number one to the rest of the world.
Exactly. Oh, yeah, that
I
I'm
love
telling you.
that.
Yeah, that's why it was so impactful. Like you're blaming trans, but let's do this game show, right?
I love
So
that.
I love that. So remember we talked about like why do you feel, and I kind of saw a little bit of, I guess I kind of maybe I'm not gonna say I understand it. I'm not gonna say I understand it, but why LGBTQ plus anyone in the community, right, that identifies would vote for Trump.
Mm, that's a great question. Are
Like,
you,
he's not for your community. Aren't you
so
afraid if you're married, you know, you're in a gay marriage, aren't you afraid that that's going to be the next thing that he abolishes? But yet you are for him. Why?
so I sent you the TikTok, and I sent it right before the show. So I know you probably didn't get to see it. I will put the link for all of our viewers, all you viewers. I'll put the link in our description. And of course, this was a Black woman. Black women are amazing at so many things. But she was describing why the LGBTQIA plus community would vote against their own interest, right? And she basically summed it up to proximity to whiteness.
Mm.
So the proximity, whiteness is a social construct. And especially in this country, it's a social construct. And whiteness is at the top of the hierarchy. And you and I have talked about this before. And listeners, I'll give you very, very quickly. There's a social hierarchy, a caste system, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
that is imaginary, but plays out systemically in real life. So at the top of this high caste system, social hierarchy, let's just imagine a ladder. White, straight men of the 1% with all the power at the very, very top. At the
Yep.
very, very bottom of that would be, let's say, a Black trans poor woman, right? So you have like white rich men, and then white men who are not so rich, and these are straight people, and then maybe a straight white man with a lot of money, and then a straight white man with no money, and then white woman with money, and it just keeps going down
Yeah.
until you get to the bottom of the hierarchy, which Black women are at the bottom of the hierarchy because we're Black, and then we're women, and then you add on someone in the LGBTQIA plus community. So
Yeah.
me as a straight Black woman on that ladder would be above LGBTQIA plus
Mm-hmm.
Black woman. And then you add class in there. So a poor Black trans woman would be at the very bottom. So I say all that and give all of you this visual is because let's say a white man that's gay would vote against his own interest because of that social hierarchy. He is a white man first.
Ooh.
He is a white man first.
Ooh.
Just like I consider myself, I'm a Black woman, I'm a Black straight woman, I consider myself Black first, right?
Okay.
Over just being a woman. Because when I put myself in the pot of women, I have to consider all women. And we look at the feminist movement that pushed Black women to the side, right? So even other people see my Blackness first,
No, and then you can't change
right?
it.
Like Susan B.
I mean,
Anthony
that's one
was,
of the things you can't change.
yeah, like Susan
You can
B.
change your
Anthony,
sex.
right? When Susan B. Anthony was basically like, I'd rather cut off my arm than see Black people vote, right? She was a feminist. She didn't want all women to vote. She wanted white women to vote.
With a vote, yeah.
So when I look at the LGBTQIA plus community that voted for Trump, just like immigrants who voted for
They
Trump,
did,
just
yes.
like Mexican Americans that voted for Trump, Latinos that voted for Trump, Venezuelan Americans that voted for Trump. It's that proximity to whiteness, because whiteness is at the top of the social ladder. And those people, unfortunately, that voted for Trump, thinking voting for him would give them favor, would give them a couple rings up. I'm not Latino, voted for Trump. So that's why. And it's not
Well,
just LG, I'm not just picking on white men that voted MAGA. I'm picking on anyone who voted Trump. But like you said, if they're starting to take away rights, just like Nazi Germany, what's next? First, they come for the immigrants. You don't, they came for the blacks. You don't think they're going to come for legalized gay marriage, which I don't know, you'll have to look it up. But when was that? When did that law go into? It was in my
not too
lifetime.
long.
It was in
Yeah,
my lifetime. It was in your
yeah,
lifetime.
because Ellen was able to take, DeGeneres was able to take effect of that. It wasn't, yeah, it wasn't that long.
It wasn't
Um,
that, and Roe v. Wade has already been overturned. You don't think they're going to these very
now,
Christian conservative people are not going to overturn gay marriage? And then I'm telling you right now, y'all hear me now. After gay marriage is going to be interracial marriage.
2015, June 26, 2015.
10 years ago.
Mm.
Gay marriage has been legal for 10 years. And then once again, I see particularly white men, but I see gay people voting for Trump. And it's not just Trump, it's his administration, Project 2025. They want the
Yeah,
nuclear family, heteronormative, man, wife, 2 kids, and a dog, women not working.
well, yeah, and what I read. I'm sorry, I got tickled. I'm sorry, that hit me.
I'm sorry, I get fired up. I get fired up about people's rights.
I know when you said that.
Because once again, as a straight woman, I could be like, I don't care. I could get married to a man. But that, to me, you take away one person's rights, you take away everybody's rights.
Yeah, back to the kitchen. Yeah, well, what I read was a lot of the LGBTQ plus community went the direction of Trump, in support of the Trump administration, is because he was closer to their political views in terms
Yeah.
of national security, economic. They felt like, you know, why would I still go down the same rabbit hole with Kamala not changing any, I think what hurt her the most is by saying she wouldn't do anything different from Biden. I that when she was on The View,
As far as what?
as far as policies, when she was on The View and they said, "What would you do different from the Biden being in the Biden administration? What has happened these past 4 years?" Right? She said, "I wouldn't do anything different."
Mm-hmm.
When she said it, I was like, "Oh, you're done." It is so funny how I really felt you're done, because that's not what the people wanted to hear, right? Because they felt like the economy was down, right?
And
Uh,
look at our economy now.
right. But I don't know that people are realizing we were on our way. We were moving in a good place as far as the economy. I don't think they were looking at that. Like, you have to understand that Trump was in this administration before who tanked it, right? Because he's always been about, hey, let's cater to, the rich in terms of, taxes. We don't want to be taxing our rich, right? So he has to put different programs in place, right? And cuts in place. So, because he aims at your 1%, you like that 1%, right? So, I think that it does tilt her over into the next administration as far as an economy perspective. Now, in terms of national security and the border, there has been talk where there was a bill that got rejected, right? Well, only because Trump was like, no, 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 let's not do that because I want to look good, so they will look good if we pass this bill. So I don't know that really people look at everything, when they're trying to decide which way, left or right, they're going to move. But that's what I read is mainly that. And here was something also intriguing, is they felt like some of the views of the Trump administration they were okay with, because sometimes there's a split between those beautiful initials. LGB stands alone, TQ stands on the other side. So things
Mhm.
that affect the TQ part of the community, that maybe the Trump administration is targeting, they were like, well, I kind of, the LGB side of it, I feel that,
Yeah.
because it's something I wouldn't do. I wouldn't do a sex change. I wouldn't,
Well,
um, you
and
know,
first of all, I think trans is less than, I've heard 1%, but I recently saw it was less than 3% of the nation. So we're talking, it's not that many people. But once again, when you say like the article said LGBTQ people voted for Trump because of, his policies,
mhm,
just like that example I gave about the social hierarchy, we have to ask who in the LGBTQ community was voting for those policies, because once again, people's whiteness comes first
yeah.
and their maleness comes first. And we know that white men were in the majority of Trump voters and 53% of white women. So I think they weren't even thinking about how Trump would impact their lives on a day-to-day basis because of their sexual orientation. And that's
Yeah,
where
I think
people
that
went wrong.
I think people are really, and maybe even MAGA folks are quietly sitting going, I didn't know. I
Oh, not
didn't
even
know.
quietly. Not even quietly. There's so many MAGA people that are coming out like, they're losing they may lose their social
Mhm.
security, they may lose their retirement because of the tariffs and the economy.
He
People
used to.
have lost their farms. I think
Mhm.
Nebraska is going bankrupt because it's mainly um, Trump voters and all the tariffs, all of the immigrations, they're taking their workers,
Yep.
the
Oh, the way
immigrants
they're
who
handling that.
voted for Trump, the immigrants who voted for Trump are
Yep.
now like, oh, why? And I will always say this.
And
Listen to a black woman. 92% of black women voted for Harris, and we're like, we are telling you people who this man is. He does not care about you.
but
And
and
that's
I
why black women are like, we done.
well, and then I don't know that, is anybody not looking at the hypocritical nature? It's like you're trying to get, immigrants out, right? But then you're wanting to bring in those farmers from Africa that are white in.
Do
I,
I have to refer listeners? Do I have to refer to the the ladder I told you
I
about? Whiteness is on top, which is why you asked me, why did LGBTQIA plus vote? Why would people in that category vote for Trump? Because their whiteness comes first. And then if they're men, their maleness comes first.
I wish that it would be awesome to have a guest on that is a gay white male and ask that question.
Email up that voted for Trump.
Please.
Yeah.
I just want to know why, if you are a gay white man,
We don't even
why?
know him. But come on. And he's not gonna
I would
say
like
because
to hear what, I don't care what
he's
race
not
you
gonna
are.
say because
If
I'm a
you are
white
in the
man.
LGBTQ community, why I'd like to please comment and say why you voted for Trump in this administration.
I also want to point out that so many people talk about, oh, I voted for Trump because of his policies. But let's be real. I've said it on the show before, and I'll say it again, that this country hates women, and this country hates black women. And Kamala was biracial, black and Indian. We have I was watching a TikTok the other day, and this woman was saying, imagine if we had never had a male president, right? Imagine if men just started working and be able to own their own homes and checking accounts like 50 years ago, right? Imagine if most of the people in our Congress were women. Like, we've always had a woman president. We have a majority of rich white women. We have a majority of women that, are CEOs of the company. All the laws are formulated for women. Imagine then we would tell men, well, I don't like the way you laugh. That's why you're not, or you're not friendly enough. I don't like Hillary Clinton. People were like, I don't like her
Like the way
personality.
you laugh, right?
With Kamala Harris, I don't like the
You
way
like
she
the way you
laughs.
laugh? Yes. What is that?
And I say that because there's no way that men would understand that. Like, we have never had a female president in we call this the most free country in the world, the most advanced country in the world, the best country in the world. And we have never had a non-male, rich, white president except for one, and that was Barack Obama.
Yeah.
All of our presidents have been men.
Mm-hmm.
They've all been rich. As far as I know, they've all been straight, and they've all been white. So when people are like, oh, I don't like Kamala Harris policies because she wouldn't change anything from Biden, I want to say, well, how's everything looking now?
Exactly.
We literally are in a fascist dictatorship. Do you know that other countries have travel warnings to come here? Other countries are
I
saying that
know.
we are I think 17, that United States is too dangerous to come here, don't go. And their other countries are telling their citizens, don't go because you're going to be an immigrant. You could be arrested and carted off to prison.
Isn't that sad
I
that
mean,
we're in this much of an uproar? Yeah.
because we have people that have
And
visas
it's only just begun.
and it's only just, what are we, 4 months, five months
Six.
in,
Yeah.
6 months in. So when
If
other
that,
countries are saying the
typically.
US is too dangerous to go and they have travel warnings, what does that mean for us here?
Well, just think about that. Just think about that for a minute. Let's say we're just 5 months in because, you
January
think, yeah,
20th.
right. And then we're just the 14th of June. That's 5 months.
Yeah.
All of this has occurred. And it's only been 5 months.
This is by design. Like, Project 2025 told us exactly what Trump was going to do. And people were complaining about Kamala Harris's policies. And some of her policies was like giving like $25,000 to buy homes.
Who would
You
do
know,
that? Who would do that?
helping with student loan repayment. I mean, like, and now look at us. Eggs are
Yeah.
like $10 a dozen. And
Well, no, eggs have gone down and so has gas.
have they
We're just losing, yeah, we're just losing our immigrants, people
jobs,
working the farms, so meaning that food sits in warehouse longer because jobs are being
tariffs,
lost by the time you get, because I know when I went to get my mushrooms, over there, because for my salad, I said, Nori, this looks a little brown. It doesn't look as nice and fresh as it normally looks like. So we're
and
going
that's
to
just the
see
beginning,
changes, yeah, and our food
because
quality changes in our food
and there might be food shortages.
food shortages as well. Yep.
And so all the people that are like, oh, I voted for Donald Trump because he was going to make America great again.
Well, it is for him, right? Of course, sometimes I wonder about
And his
Melania because
billionaire
the way that
buddies.
Melania looks, she's like she's not present most of the time. Uh, but I don't know. I don't know.
And
I don't
Melania,
know her.
she's like, I saw another someone said not to feel sorry for Melania because, and she used the example of during chattel slavery in the United States, right? We just hear about the men being the slave masters, but also there was a significant amount of white women who owned slaves. And there's a book called, I haven't read it, but it's called, oh man, I don't know, I'll have to remember it. But there's a whole book talking about how white women owned slaves and they were complicit in the slave trade and the benefit of
Sure.
Black people here in the United States being slaves and being treated atrociously, subhuman. So those are the same women on the Christian conservative right that are standing beside the men. Once again, the social hierarchy, the proximity to the top. A lot of white women are like, Melania Trump, who is an immigrant,
Yeah.
saying,
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
I just keep my mouth shut and smile and go along with what my husband says, then I will
I'll keep
also
getting
have the
my
money and the power.
right, I'll keep getting my $1 billion for a book or an episode that I'm
Yeah.
trying to do. I'll just get yeah, she's gonna
Handmaiden's
enrich
tale.
herself. Yeah, yeah.
Handmaiden's tale.
Oh, it's so sad. Now I see, and mark me if I'm wrong, I see immigrants out there and supporters protesting, this mass deportation, right?
Yeah.
But I haven't really seen many LGBTQ plus community members out protesting all the things that are happening to the community with the executive orders and all the changes. I haven't seen that. Have you seen any of that? Like, are they just
I
sitting back, like thinking
Well, I haven't seen
it'll
it, but
blow over?
I think people have so many identities, right? Like I can be not me, we'll say someone else. Someone can be an immigrant and they can be a person of color and they can be LGBTQIA and they can be a parent. Like
Yeah.
people have many different identities. So what I believe is there are a lot of LGBTQIA plus people out there
Ah, gotcha.
demonstrating opposing Trump in totality, not just against immigration.
Okay, because I'm gonna say,
Because I have
it's
seen some like pride flags in demonstration videos
okay,
and stuff like
okay,
that. But
okay.
once again, we as people hold so many identities, just like you can be a white man with money who's gay.
Right. I guess too, could you imagine the impact of them moving from like saying now we're going to abolish gay marriage with all the ones that have gotten married since 2015, right? That we're
Mhm.
now the impact that that would be.
Yeah.
Like, do
It'd be
you really
atrocious.
see the Trump administration even pulling that card? I couldn't see them pulling that card.
I mean, we also didn't think they would overturn Roe versus Wade,
We did not. You're right. Good point. Good point.
right?
Good point.
We wouldn't think that there would be such a backlash against DEI. We wouldn't see Trump getting into fights with Harvard and saying that no immigrants can come to Harvard. Like there's a
Oh
lot
my
of things
goodness.
that we didn't think would ever happen,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
We
He
about
uses the pool funding. That's his card. Pool
Yeah,
funding.
the LGBT, anything associated with the LGBTQIA as far as the federal government has been wiped off of the
Yeah, yeah.
website, the National Archives, pictures. We didn't think we would see that. Like service people who were gay that were honored being erased.
Well, and the fact that if you are transgender now, you're not welcome in the military. Where did that happen? Where what does that have to do with anything? And
What does
fighting for
that
this country?
Just like it was very recently, I think it was like Bill Clinton with the Don't Ask, Don't Tell, where
Yeah.
gay people before Bill Clinton weren't allowed in the military. And then the Don't Ask, Don't Tell. Okay, you can fight and die for us, but don't tell us your sexual orientation because somehow that's bad.
It's
And then
crazy.
now transgender people not being allowed. So, we've taken so many steps forward in our lifetime. And unfortunately, we're seeing all that being rolled back.
Yes.
And not
Yes.
just for LGBTQIA,
But
for everybody.
some of this has made me wonder, all of this is a distraction. I'm going to attack all of these communities,
Yeah,
all of these programs, because I need your focus misdirected so that I can
maybe.
be over here enriching myself in the ways that I need to.
I read, and I can't cite the source, but I read that Trump has made half of his 40% of his
Yep,
fortune
you're correct. Yep.
since this term
Yeah. And getting a plane.
from crypto
Yeah.
and the plane
Yeah.
from who was it? I don't know what
Oh, I
government,
forgot.
an
Yeah. My
Arab
bad.
government.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
And it was
he's
supposed to be
he
okay.
and
So,
we've talked about this before that a lot of people, and not people, like experts have speculated that he only ran one that he wouldn't go to prison
no,
and two
absolutely.
to make more money
Yeah.
because with the presidency you have power and you have fame, right?
The
So
crypto. I mean, and I know, yeah, I know we're going off on Trump, in the administration, but I think that this is worthy of a show. I really want to take time and do an episode on this administration and all the things that are
Right.
happening, that we're not, the relationship with Elon Musk, the fight with Elon Musk, what all this really means. I think it would be really important to have an episode. Um, because as you can tell, we're winding it down because we could just
Yeah.
go on for days talking about, the LGBT community and what's going
Well,
on.
let me
Uh,
interrupt you real quick.
okay.
I I don't think that we're going off on the Trump administration. I think what we're discussing now with the rights of LGBTQIA slowly being taken away is because of the Trump administration.
True.
Because I don't think a President Kamala Harris, I don't think we'd be dealing with the rollback of
No, we wouldn't have.
LGBTQIA
No, oh
rights.
no,
Like
absolutely not.
she attended
Yeah,
pride parades.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, no,
She was an
not at
ally.
all. Not at all.
I don't know if Trump has publicly said he's an ally or shown himself to be an
He was
ally.
holding the flag.
He did? Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
That I have not even seen, but
yeah,
okay.
yeah. I was like, really? Okay. Because he's going to show. He was showing that he does have support from the community, so he's holding
I'm
the
very
flag.
surprised because
And
his staunchest supporters are very conservative.
yeah, yeah, you would
I guess
think,
some of them
but
are gay, like Peter Thiel of I think PayPal. I think he sold PayPal.
yeah, he's going to do what benefits any of his agendas, whether he
Mhm.
believes it or not. If it benefits him in any type of way, he's going to move in that direction. It's sad, but again,
I also want to mention before we go,
I love you. I was
which
like, but again,
we should have said this at the beginning, that the LGBTQIA plus community is not a monolith. Obviously, it's there. The people in that community are not going to think all the same, just like all Black people don't think the same, just like all white people don't think the same, just like all women don't think the same. So within, just like all straight people don't think the same, right?
right, right,
So you'll
exactly.
have very conservative people that are LGBTQ plus, and some that are actively queer, fighting for socio-political advances in
Yeah,
the
great
queer
point.
community.
Great point. Which is why
And then
you would
I'm
see, yeah, yeah, which is why you would see some that would go for the Trump administration, which is kind of how we formed that question. Yeah. Now you sure? You, no. All
so
right.
much
Again,
to say about this, but we'll save it. We'll save
so
it.
then she was like, hmm?
I'll put it in the
Yeah,
comments.
okay, yeah, yeah. So sorry, we don't have a dance or anything for you. This was something we really wanted to.
Dance.
Yeah, she's dancing. It doesn't matter.
YMCA. YMCA. Because that's one of Trump's campaign songs from a very known, celebrated, proud gay group, which is another thing that blows my mind that he uses that song
Oh my gosh.
as he rolls back LGBTQIA plus rights.
They,
That's our
they,
dance. Why?
so she's going to be doing the dance, and I'm going to just support the
YMCA.
gear. Okay. No, but we are going to come back. I know you guys are wondering if we're going to do Diddy again. We are going to come back to you, with Diddy. There's some other shows or episodes we'd like to share. So sometimes we want to move and present that, but we will circle back around and do some of those real talk on Diddy and what's happening. Um, but I think, what did you mention? We'd like to do an episode on self care. Yeah,
Self-care,
yeah,
especially in the times that we are in right now. People are exhausted and burnt out because of the world around us. And we
yeah.
gotta take care of ourselves as we take care of others, and see our world crashing down around not just the United States, but the entire world. I mean, we got wars and rumors of wars. We got
Exactly.
little kids that don't have parents because they've been snatched up by ICE.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, so much. Just so much is going
People
on.
losing their jobs,
Exactly. So,
people worried
what?
about the future. We got
Yeah,
to take care of
right.
ourselves, you know.
Yes. So we are going to, as we never go out without Kim. What do you want them to do?
We want you to lie share, and subscribe. And make sure you comment, like, share, and describe. There is so much fun in our comment section. We welcome you. Say it with me, get like, share, and subscribe. And comment, like, share, and subscribe.
My cousin. This is my cousin.
We're
In
related.
honor,
She
in honor,
can't deny me.
look, in honor of Pride Month, I'm so proud of her. So, oh my gosh. Well, until next time, elevating and empowering is always bringing to you Crazy Kim, and that real talk and, those topics that, we really need to dive in and talk about, just to bring awareness and, maybe try to execute some change. Kim once said, she said she's done enough. Black women's done enough. But I'm hoping that we can charge others out there to let's try to do something about the things that we are seeing. All right.
Yeah.
All right. No more YMCA. Okay. Until next time. We love you.
Bye.
And there is nothing you could do about it. YMCA, get out.
I'll take us out.